Americans of Reddit living during 2001, what is your 9/11 story? Cav3TR0LL just finished a contract for a company whose workgroup I was with was in 7WTC. My contracting company was on the 77th floor of 1WTC. My client had been very happy with my work and wanted me back for a follow-up contract to begin on site in October. My contracting company called me Friday afternoon to see if I was available to start Monday, the 10th in NYC. I had left home at noon to attend a Jimmy Buffett concert in Virginia. The recruiter didn't have my cell, so called my landline. I got home Sunday, called the recruiter back, but they never returned my call. Tuesday morning I could have been at either 1WTC, 7WTC or 111 Wall Street TL/DR. I could owe my life to Jimmy Buffett or stupid recruiter tricks. I worked for eSpeed on 105th floor North Tower. When first plane hit I was waiting for an elevator on 78th floor. Most horrific experience of my life. The huge bang and swaying was terrifying. The huge fireballs seemed to come from the elevators mainly. I jumped onto the floor, the sky lobby filled with smoke quite quickly, but luckily the group I was with were closest to the stairs and we got down to street level around 9:50 a.m. I lost two friends who had already got to work at 8 a.m. and were on the 105th floor. Swerve. I work in the London office of the company that owned eSpeed at the time of the attacks. We had squawk lines to a couple of desks on your floor and also a couple to Eurobrokers in the other tower. After the first plane struck, some of your colleagues discovered that the squawk line to our office was still operating and the guy the first sat next to offered to take down messages from people that knew they were doomed. They were simply giving their names and dictating things like "tell my wife I love her, tell my daughter this and my son that," etc. Over and over, with maybe a dozen people leaving messages until the fire got to them. It was utterly harrowing to experience this despair, even secondhand. Hardly any of my North Tower colleagues made it out and far too few of my South Tower colleagues survived. I lost 6 pretty close friends and it changed my life in more ways than I have time to describe here. Sending my best vibes and huge love in your general direction. Edit. Once flights were resumed I was sent to NY to assist in getting my side of the business back up and running from a disaster recovery site in Jersey City. It was without doubt the most humbling experience of my now 50 years. Everybody I met did whatever they could to help anybody in any way. As stunning a city as NY is to visit, the love and strength of its people on display after such a dark time is the memory that will never leave me. Lost Architorture was sitting in a religion and society sociology class when someone kept getting beeper text pings interrupting class. After about the 4th or 5th one, the professor asked him to either leave and deal with it or turn it off. Student was going to turn it off, but quick glance at the messages stopped him and he announced to the class that planes had hit the buildings in NYC. Had come down to an already crowded lobby to see them announce that the Pentagon had been hit and watch the first of the 2 towers collapse. The event totally changed the course of the religion and society class one was taking, along with the high-rise structures class one also had. I believe in space. I was in 7th grade. Teacher pulled out the rolling TV thing and we watched the news. We saw the second plane hit live. My grandma lived close enough that she took pictures of the smoke from her house. I don't think anyone in my class realized the seriousness of what just happened. I know I didn't. It was like a movie. Noodle nugget. I was in the army stationed in Darmstadt, Germany. Our day ground to a screeching halt and we were immediately put on perpetual guard duty. For those that don't know, U.S. military bases in Germany are way smaller than your typical army base on U.S. soil. At the time, there were 3 army posts and maybe 4 housing areas in Darmstadt that all needed to be guarded. Smaller outlying areas also needed to be guarded. At some point, I ended up guarding a place near Frankfurt that made training aids. It was pretty chaotic for a few days having to remember who was where. We were all over the place. It was kinda endearing though, seeing the outpouring of support from the German citizens. So many of them got as close as they could to the bases and left flowers and candles. Assas 1. I was a freshman in high school. I left second period to use the bathroom and walking past the senior lounge area, saw like 10 people crowing the TV. Walked up and saw right as the second plane hit. School pretty much shut down after that. We lived on Long Island, so a lot of kids' parents worked in the city and specifically the towers. Pretty much chaotic experience. Then there was a billowing cloud of green smoke in the sky over our school by the end of the day and fighter jets flying over non-stop. We caught wind that the Pentagon had been hit also. My uncle was working at the time. Finally found out that he thought a bomb went off and came out of his office and looked down the hallway, which at a point was completely gone, ironically, thankfully was under construction and nobody was there. Conspiracists, grab your tinfoil hats. The only person I knew personally who passed was my dad's best friend. I actually saw his picture at the museum a couple years back and got pretty emotional, which I didn't think I would be. I highly recommend visiting the museum in NYC. Pretty moving and wild.